Dak Prescott doing his little windmill. I missed the little hip thrust thing he used to do. That was a fun little meme. But either way, getting ready for what should be an interesting game against the Chicago Bears. Dak made his return last week, which is meh, against the Detroit Lions. They didn't need him to be great. Meanwhile, Kirk Cousins getting loose for the Minnesota Vikings. We need Adam Rank here so we can mock him with the whole Skol Viking horn thing. Vikes getting ready at home for an interesting one today. You're seeing the warm-up shots. That means, well, that means one, it's Halloween, because that's coming tomorrow. But welcome to another edition of NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. I am Marcus Grant. He is Michael F. Florio. And we do have a game that's going on right now, the Jaguars and the Broncos over in London. We will have highlights of that one a little bit later on. But we are at week 8. The season's flying by right now.
It really is. Like, as I was driving in today, I was like, we're almost in double-digit weeks already. Like, it feels like it just started.
It does feel like it just started, but we got plenty more season left to go. We got plenty to do on this show today. But as always, you can send us your questions at NFL Fantasy on Twitter. We will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. The rest of them, they get shuffled off to Aaron Tan because he doesn't like spinach. You just eat a green vegetable, dude, and you will get off this dude. That's the whole deal. That's all we're asking. Anyway, let's start off with some of the latest injury news. These are the early game situations to keep an eye on. Ezekiel Elliott is officially inactive. It had been trending that way all week long, but a whole lot of guys will be out to play for their teams. Amon-Ra St. Brown is back. Nelson Agholor active. Pair of USC wide receivers there. Couple of Raider pass catchers. Davante Adams and Mac Hollins are active, but Darren Waller is inactive. Dalton Schultz should be good to go for the Dallas Cowboys. Some injuries to take note of in the late window. Ryan Tannehill is out. It'll be Malik Willis getting the start. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Brandon Cooks expected to play, as are both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Metcalf may be more of a surprise than anybody else there. And Logan Thomas expected to play for the Commanders with a calf injury. Let's talk about the Ezekiel Elliott situation, though. Oh, actually, we're going to James Palmer. I take that back. We're going to go to James Palmer because he's got a report letting us know what's going on with the Steelers and the Eagles. James, take it away.
Let's take a deeper look at both these receiving cores and what might happen on this field behind me in Philadelphia. First, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're going against an Eagles secondary that has the top 2 cornerbacks in terms of attracting the lowest passer rating in the NFL. Number 1, Darius Slay. Number 2, James Bradberry. And Kenny Pickett has already had conversations, to my understanding, with his wide receivers this week, saying, I'm not going to take unnecessary risks pushing the football downfield, even though we need splash plays against this Eagles secondary, to where there's no team in the NFL that has forced more turnovers than the Philadelphia Eagles. And then you flip it to the other side, to where Pittsburgh's dealing with some injuries in the secondary, and you look at what they played against with the Miami Dolphins a week ago and against the run. Perhaps we see some more explosive plays out of Devontae Smith and about A.J. Brown. Those are things to keep your eye on, as well as maybe the Steelers being a little more aggressive in the red zone. Their kicker, Chris Boswell, out for this game.
Thank you, James. Interesting matchup here between two teams from the state of Pennsylvania. This feels like one where we're big on the Eagles. We're starting pretty much all our Eagles, including maybe the Eagles defense. Are there any Steelers that you're really excited to get in your lineup this week?
No, not. I mean, George Pickens is someone that I think brings upside, and Deontay Johnson's been getting volume. The same thing with Najee Harris, but like, I don't have a ton of confidence. And I agree with you. The Eagles defense, I think if you have them, you could ride out with them the rest of the year.
I have put them in a couple of lineups today, and I'm feeling that way, that I'm going to roll with the Eagles defense for quite a while. All right, let's now get to Ezekiel Elliott, because it had been trending in the direction of him not playing all week long as he's dealing with a knee injury. He has been ruled out today against the Chicago Bears. So I guess the simple question is it officially Tony Pollard's season?
Yeah, if you have Tony Pollard on your roster right now, just make sure he's in your starting lineup, because he's a must-play. Every week, we see them splitting work. Zeke gets a lot of the groundwork where Pollard, comes in. He's the home run hitter there. But the Bears have struggled against the run this year. They've especially struggled on outside runs, and that is where Tony Pollard can have a really big day. So I liked him before we knew Zeke wasn't playing. He's a must-start now.
Absolutely a must-start, because if the Bears can be had, it is on the ground. So I like his chances today. Ryan Tannehill not playing this week, which means rookie Malik Willis is going to make his first career start today against the Houston Texans. Now, I know on Fantasy Live, Adam Rank was very big on Malik Willis. Full disclosure, I am starting him in a Superflex Dynasty League today, so I started him in place of Russell Wilson. Your thoughts on Malik Willis? I mean, we saw him in the preseason make some big plays, but there's definitely a lot of inexperience at play here.
Yeah, he's definitely somewhat boom or bust, but the upside is so high because he can run with the best. Like, he's up there with Lamar Jackson, with Jalen Hurts when it comes to what he can do with his legs. And I expect a lot of rushing attempts today against the Houston Texans. Some other quarterbacks, I would have used him over Russ myself today, Marcus, but I'd use him over Rodgers, Mariota, Stafford, Jimmy G. Him versus Justin Fields is a close one, but not many quarterbacks have his upside. Even if you don't need him today, I think you go out and you pick him up just in case.
I think definitely worth stashing. I had a feeling, I just wondered what his status was going to be. Would he play this season? Ends up playing a little bit earlier than anticipated because of an injury situation. It is time for Waiver Wire, presented by KFC. Here's a look at some of the notable names that are available in 50% or more of NFL.com leagues. Danny Dimes with an interesting matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. Khalil Herbert, who should get some opportunity against the Cowboys. D'Onta Foreman looking to be in a good spot against the Falcons. Tyler Boyd, how is he still out there in this many leagues? Go get Tyler Boyd, especially with no Jamar Chase, Wan'Dale Robinson, Michael Gallup, George Pickens, also available in a ton of leagues across NFL.com. So, Florio, let's just get down to brass tacks. Who is your waiver wire hero for the week?
I'm going so off menu, I'm not sure we have B-roll of this player. Not for my menu. I'm going with Kadarius Toney here. Look, he hasn't played a snap all year. I don't care. He was very good last year when he was on the field. He went for almost 200 yards against the #1 ranked defense last year. On yards per route run, he was up there with the elite of the elite wide receivers. And now he's going to a situation where he's going to have Andy Reid designing plays for him. He's going to have Patrick Mahomes throwing him the ball. I think he instantly becomes the Chiefs' most explosive receiver, someone who can pick up a bunch of yards after the catch, be used in the slot. You can't use him this week, but I think you're going to want him on the roster for the rest of the season.
Definitely a stash where you can. I know a lot of folks like you and some other Kadarius Toney truthers have been holding on this whole time. This is your moment to shine.
I hope.
We all hope. Well, now that Kadarius Toney is officially out of New York, Wan'Dale Robinson becomes my waiver wire hero for Week 8. Mentioned that they've got a matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. And yes, the Seahawks defense has been playing better over the last few weeks, but the Giants are looking for somebody to be a consistent target earner in their offense. And the last couple of weeks, it has been Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, I know the numbers have not been particularly spectacular. You see that 11-plus fantasy points in 2 of his 3 career games, but just the fact that he's on the field a lot, he's running a lot of routes, and he is starting to see more looks from Daniel Jones has me optimistic about what Wan'Dale Robinson can be. He's definitely worth a pickup, maybe even a start, depending on what your roster looks like in Week 8. All right. Time for 15 for 15, presented by Geico, as we go through some of the top positions across fantasy. Let's start must-start quarterbacks. Florio, who are yours?
Tua Tagovailoa in a bounce-back opportunity against the Detroit Lions. Kyler Murray is always in play, even if Call of Duty came out this weekend. Daniel Jones against the Seahawks. I have him as a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Derek Carr in a good matchup as well. And then Kirk Cousins, the Skull Man himself. Look, he's been playing pretty good ball this year, averaging around 16.5 fantasy points per game. I know that doesn't blow you away, but when we're talking about quarterbacks this season, that's good enough to get the job done. You see on the screen right now, he's been much better at home than he has been on the road, and the Cardinals have allowed the 6th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Plus, they have an offense that can put up some points on their own, which means Cousins could have to throw and keep putting up points in the second half.
Kirk Cousins, he's been Kirk Cousins, which is, when the matchup's good, it works out for him. When it's not so good, he's been kind of meh. Take a look at my must-start running backs for the week. Derrick Henry, who by himself could probably win you the week considering his recent history against the Houston Texans. Raheem Mostert, who's been playing very, very well and has the Lions. I like Joe Mixon a lot on Monday night against the Cleveland Browns. D'Onta Foreman, I mentioned earlier, in line for a big workload with no Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers. But let's start, or continue, I guess, down there at the bottom of the screen with Tony Pollard. And you heard Florio talking about him a little bit earlier. I would have liked Pollard this week, even if Zeke was playing, just because the Bears are really vulnerable on the ground. I'd like to think that Kellen Moore is going to try and take advantage of this, which means more of a run-heavy offense this week. Sure, you'll see Dak throw the football, but I would expect you're going to see the Cowboys keep it on the ground a lot. I like Pollard to get a lot of those touches with no Zeke, even catch a few passes out of the backfield. So he is definitely a must-start for the week. Over to the wide receivers. Who's on this list, Mike?
Gabe Davis, who I think has a super high ceiling every week. Devonta Smith, who's been getting a ton of volume. Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he's back in our fantasy lives, which means he's back in your starting lineup. Brandon Cooks in a good matchup against the Titans. And then the player that you said, why is he still out there in so many leagues? Tyler Boyd. I agree. Go check your waiver wire right now just in case. If he is still out there, he is not only a must pick up, I think he is someone that you very much so have to play this week. Tyler Boyd was going to get more opportunities. He's been playing good ball as of late, but with no Jamar Chase, not only is that going to mean more targets, it's going to mean more downfield targets as well. So just more opportunity for him to pick up points in chunks. And the Browns, I know the Browns are a solid defense, but they're not one that you have to get away from in fantasy. So Tyler Boyd very much so in play.
Tyler Boyd, a good player in a good situation right now. Let's round this out with the must-start tight ends for Week 8. T.J. Hawkinson against the Miami Dolphins. You got Juwan Johnson, who I liked last week, like him again this week against the Raiders. Zach Ertz with a great matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. And on the flip side, Irv Smith Jr. against the Cardinals. I think it's time to hashtag let Irv swerve. Let's go back near the top of the list there and look at Mike Gesicki. And I know he is frustrating because it seems like either he's scoring a couple of touchdowns and he gets you 24 points, or he doesn't do anything and he gets you like 4. That's sort of the way of the world with fantasy tight ends. But this is a very good matchup because we're always picking on the Lions, and you see there on the screen 7+ targets in each of the last 2 games. So it seems like Mike McDaniel's starting to let him run some more routes, and Tua Tagovailoa is finding him. So this seems like an opportunity to stream Mike Gesicki if you can. Time for a break. We got plenty left to do here on NFL Fantasy Game Day. First, we'll take a look at Kyler Murray getting loose in Minnesota as the Cardinals get ready to take on the Vikings. Wonder if he got through his campaign this week. And elsewhere, Mac Jones is back in action. He's getting the start for the New England Patriots today. Stick around, though. We're going trick-or-treating. That's coming up next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. There is the man of the hour in the Cowboys backfield, Tony Pollard. Expected to take a heavy workload today with no Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys get ready to take on the Bears, trying to stay in the thick of things in a very competitive NFC East race. And Kenny Pickett, you've got a tough matchup in front of him with the Steelers taking on the in-state rival Philadelphia Eagles. See if he can get the ball out to some of his targets. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Chase Claypool, hoping for some big things from them today. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. I'm Marcus. He is Mike. We will get to some of your questions in just a second. Remember, you can keep sending them to us on the Twitter machine at NFL Fantasy. Let's dive in and see if we can tackle a couple of them right now. This one from W. Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco, Curtis Samuel, or Tyler Allgeier in the flex. 12-team full-point PPR. Well, I guess Pacheco is out of the mix.
Yeah.
You're on a bye.
He's out. The other two were very close. I'm going to lean with Curtis Samuel, who still saw 8 targets last week despite the quarterback change. It being PPR leads me to lean the receiver.
I would think so, too. Samuel not getting as many rushing attempts as he was earlier in the season, but I still like his upside more than Tyler Allgeier. This one from Wang Chung. Everybody Wang Chung tonight. Bateman or Ayuk? Well, Bateman's already played, so hopefully you didn't play him because
you got that donut.
He didn't do anything. I took that donut in a league of mine. So hopefully Brandon Ayuk. I would have said Ayuk probably before the week started anyway. So Brandon Ayuk hopefully is the answer. Hopefully you went on and did that, because otherwise you're going to be sad. Keep sending us your fantasy questions. By the way, I know you guys like to ask us questions. We also like to ask you questions. And our poll question for the week: who has been the spookiest surprise this fantasy season? Your options are Kyle Pitts, Najee Harris, Cam Akers, or Russell Wilson. A whole heaping helping of letdown right there. Who has let you down the most, though, is the question we would like for you to answer. Time now to play a little game that we are calling Trick or Treat. Going to list some players here who haven't lived up to expectations, and we're going to decide whether or not they are going to be a trick, a.k.a. you should probably think about moving on from them, or if they're a treat, you should hang on because things are going to get better. So let's start with Kyle Pitts. He was there at the top of that poll question. It has not been what we thought. Trick or treat for Kyle Pitts?
He's a trick, unfortunately. Like, I want him to be a treat so badly. He is so good. He's a generational talent, all of that. But unfortunately, Arthur Smith is out here handing out pennies when people are trick-or-treating and just refusing to give his best player the ball. So because of that, I told someone on Twitter today that I would play Irv Smith over him.
That's where we are now. Yeah, there was a house in my neighborhood that used to hand out loose change, but like not enough to be of note. Like I'd get home and there was like 8 cents in my bag.
It's the worst.
What are we doing here? Yeah, I think he's a trick as well, unfortunately. And it's not his fault. It's just, as you mentioned, the play calling has been suspect. So it applies to both Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Darnell Mooney, who has underperformed. He was everybody's favorite sleeper wide receiver this season. The Bears' offense has not been very good. Darnell Mooney, trick or treat?
I'm going to go with trick again here, and it's just because the Cowboys' defense has been so good this year. They get a bunch of pressure on the quarterback. They haven't allowed a lot of production through the air. Mooney is always kind of boom or bust. He doesn't have a touchdown on the year. I think if you're starting him this week, you're just hoping that Trayvon Diggs goes for the interception and Mooney beats him on the long ball.
This is an offense that is more geared toward running the football. The passing volume just has not been there, so I'm going to say trick as well. I do think at some point he's going to score a touchdown this season, but I just don't expect big production for Darnell Mooney. This is sort of a whiff on us for the sleeper hole content. Kareem Hunt, who has been underperforming in Cleveland, but there are trade rumors swirling. So does that change your outlook? Trick or treat for him?
He is a treat, but more so in the sense of someone that I want on my roster than someone I want in my starting lineup. I worry about him, splitting work with Nick Chubb this week, but everything is sounding more and more like he's going to be on a different roster next week, whether it be the Bills, the Rams, any number of teams right now that are in the market for a running back. And that is going to really shoot up his fantasy value. So you have about 40 more minutes. Well, he plays on Monday night, so you got a little bit more time than that, but get him on your roster now.
He is a treat in the sense of, it's like, when your mom is baking cookies and they're in the oven and you smell them baking, but you can't quite have them yet. that's how Kareem Hunt is a treat. I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to get traded to somewhere where he's going to get a bigger workload, get out of the shadow of Nick Chubb, and then he's going to help you. But so far, it has not been very great. Cam Akers, who's another potential trade target, has been so far this year for the Rams. Trick or treat here?
He is a trick because I think a lot of people, he's worth rostering in case he does get traded, but he's going to have to get traded to like the perfect situation for it to work out. He's not Kareem Hunt, I don't think, and he's still working his way back from that Achilles injury, so I'm questioning if a team is going to trade for him and then suddenly make him their unquestioned RB1.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's a trick. So if he does get traded, it's going to be to a place where he's going to share time with somebody. And if for whatever reason the Rams don't trade him and he stays in Los Angeles, then he's still in another bad situation. So this is completely a trick. Last one, Najee Harris, who has, again, underperformed for a guy that probably was drafted in the first round. Does it get better for him? Trick or treat?
I think he's I'm trying to combine the two words. Like he's a treat in the sense of like he's gonna get guaranteed volume. If you need a running back, you could plug him in and know you are gonna get that. He might be a trick though in the sense of he hasn't been doing a whole lot with the volume that's been going his way, but because of the amount of touches he gets every week, Marcus, I still think at the very least he's in play as a flex option. I would have been expecting much better things though coming into the season.
He is a treat, sort of like that box of Milk Duds. I mean, it's a treat, it's sweet, but when you look around, it's sort of one of the last things that I'm going to eat, right? So I think the volume, as you mentioned, is what wins the day for Najee Harris, but I don't really love the situation there in Pittsburgh. But again, we need running backs who have volume, and Najee Harris is one of those guys. So that's trick or treats. Hopefully all of your treats are tasty this year. That gets us to flex starts, though. And who is your favorite flex start for Week 8?
Michael Carter, because if you have Michael Carter on your roster right now, you've likely been holding him all season long, like I have been in a couple of leagues. And with no Breece Hall now, it's the road for fantasy success is there for Michael Carter. Yes, he has to worry about James Robinson, but James Robinson just got there a couple of days ago. He hasn't really looked himself the last couple of weeks. So Michael Carter, at the very least, I'm anticipating a split on the ground. I think he'll be the back involved in the passing game. If you're not starting Michael Carter now, what have you been waiting for?
This is the ultimate opportunity to start Michael Carter, even against a Patriots defense that's been pretty decent most of the year. Mine is DJ Moore, and it's great to have DJ Moore back in our lives. It seemed like it wasn't going to happen because the Panthers' offense had been so bad. Fun fact, the Panthers can take over first place in the NFC South with a win today over the Atlanta Falcons. The matchup is great. The quarterback situation has improved a little bit with P.J. Walker now willing to push the ball downfield against opposing defenses. That's not something we saw with Baker Mayfield. And with no Christian McCaffrey, no Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore is the unquestioned top target in the offense. Time to step away for a little bit, but we still got a lot more to get to here on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. First, take a look at Jalen Hurts getting ready to take on the Steelers. The Eagles trying to remain undefeated and atop the standings in the NFC East. We'll see if they can get that done today. And C.D. Lamb. We'll see if it's a good game for him. A tough matchup against that Chicago Bears defense. We'll see what he has going. Stick around, though. We're tackling some burning questions coming up after this. Justin Fields. Ooh, they're rocking the orange helmets.
I like
today.
that a lot.
I like that. The orange helmets, the orange jerseys, the white pants. I think people want the navy pants.
I want orange pants too. Let's go all orange.
That feels. I mean, if you're gonna do it, this is the week to do it. It's Halloween.
Exactly.
This is exactly the week to do it. Although I feel like pajamas if they do that. So Justin Fields is playing. Ezekiel Elliott is not. He will be in civilian clothes this week watching the Cowboys take on the Chicago Bears. Tony Pollard will handle the heavy lifting.
Zeke's still having a good time.
He looks like he's having a great time. He looks like he's got his winter coat on, too. He's kind of beefy right now.
He is.
He's kind of beefy. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. I'm Marcus. That is Michael. We got plenty of questions from you guys that you have sent us on the Twitter machine at NFL Fantasy. Let's try to tackle a couple of those right this minute. And this first one, waiting. There it is from Neil. Flex, full PPR, Alec Pierce or Romeo Doubs. This is not a great choice.
No, and a week or two ago I would have said Alec Pierce, but with the quarterback change in Indianapolis, I don't feel great using any of their secondary pieces, so I'll take the shot on Romeo Doubs, who, I mean, with no Allen Lazard and they could be trailing in that game, at least has a chance.
So was Aaron Rodgers subtweeting Romeo Doubs?
That's what I thought too. It felt like that was a shot at him.
Some people have to stop making mistakes and maybe they shouldn't play. So maybe that'll light a fire under him. This one from Pax. I've got Leonard Fournette, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, and Dameon Pierce. Who do I sit? Thanks for flexing. Hopefully you started Leonard Fournette because he had a decent game on Thursday night. But who else? Who should be the odd person out here?
Kenneth Walker is a must start no matter who your options are. Mixon has a great matchup. So as much as I like Dameon Pierce in a normal situation, I think he's a must start. But in this situation, I think he's the one that sits.
I'm with you on this one too. The other guys I think have higher ceilings this week than Dameon Pierce. Let's take a look at the inactives and actives for Week 8. We know Ezekiel Elliott not playing. Amon-Ra St. Brown back for the Lions. Nelson Aguilar active for the Patriots. Devontae Adams, Mac Hollins, both suiting up for the Raiders, but Darren Waller is not. Dalton Schultz should be active and on the field for the Dallas Cowboys. And let's see, we can go through the late games as well. Ryan Tannehill is out. Malik Willis will get the start for the Tennessee Titans. Brandon Cooks expected to play, as are both Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf against the Giants. Logan Thomas suiting up for the Washington Commanders. Patriots and the Jets, a big one in the AFC East. I know Jets fans are excited. They feel like this is their chance to slay a dragon a little bit this week.
They got there before 8 a.m. this week. Like they are excited for. We're wearing our gangrene stuff.
Right there it is. This is a chance for Jets fans to slay a bit of a dragon. Mike Giardi, though, is on the scene, and he filed this report.
So if you're playing fantasy football, you should probably stay away from Patriots, Jets. Both offenses have struggled. But if you got to go with someone from this, I'll give you two picks. Michael Carter, the running back for the Jets, he's going to take over the workload with Breece Hall being down and out with that torn ACL. Hall was their home run hitter, but Carter pretty explosive, also good coming out of the backfield. Yes, the Jets did trade for Robinson, but it'll be a limited playbook for him, so Carter should be the one that carries the load. And again, the Jets want to run the ball, want to establish that, and carry it through 4 quarters. And then if I'm going to take another pick, it's the Jets defense. The Patriots offense, they've been inconsistent. Mac Jones on unsteady ground. Maybe Bailey Zappi, we see him again. Who knows how that's going to work? But Quinnen Williams in particular, someone you circle because he is going to be lined up over James Ferentz. 33-year-old journeyman center, started 6 games in his career, but with David Andrews out, Williams will be over the top of him. He creates a ton of pressure versus no matter who he faces, he should be able to eat up Ferentz and cause problems for whoever the Patriot quarterback is.
Thank you, Mike. That gets us to burning questions. And you heard Giardi just mention James Robinson with a limited knowledge of the playbook. Not a surprise, just getting there to New York. From a fantasy perspective, what do you expect? Is he worth putting in a lineup today?
No, I would get away from James Robinson this week. I think he's worth rostering because he could see more and more work as he, learns that playbook and stuff, but he hasn't even been there a full week yet. And Michael Carter has been with the team now for 2 years. He obviously knows the playbook better, especially in the passing game. I think that is going to really benefit him. Robinson maybe gets some work near the goal line, but right now I think he's a very low floor, low ceiling type of play.
Incredibly low floor this week. Maybe going forward we see more work, but I just don't expect a lot of it his first game with the team. Next one, Christian McCaffrey is now a San Francisco 49er. Did play, is a little bit limited action last week. What should we take away from what we saw last week, and how do we spin that going forward?
My takeaway was Christian McCaffrey has so much league-winning upside, it's not even funny. Like, his first 5 touches, he was averaging over 10 yards per touch in this offense because we know how talented he is, how versatile he is, how hard it is for defenses to game plan and stop him. But now you add in that he has, I know no Debo today, but Debo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk all around him with a great play caller and a great run designer in Kyle Shanahan. I mean, there wasn't many situations that would have raised his ceiling, but luckily for us, he went to one.
You talk about no Debo Samuel, too, and I think they could sort of use McCaffrey a little bit like Debo. I don't think they line him up as wide receiver quite as much, but he can run all the same run plays that Debo ran. We know he can catch the football. So while you lose one playmaker if you're San Francisco, you did gain another one in Christian McCaffrey. So I think he's going to be fine going forward.
Little extra motivation because the Rams wanted him too.
That's true. That is true. I think if you're Kyle Shanahan, you can show Sean McVay what he missed out on this week. Last one. Sam Ehlinger getting the start for the Colts, expected to be their starting quarterback for the remainder of the season. Is he worth picking up?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be, forcing him into my starting lineups, but any quarterback that can run and he can run is worth picking up. And just in case for fantasy, we know he has good playmakers around him, and we talk about it all the time. Like 50 rushing yards is equivalent to 150 passing yards. Like it's just that much more of a value. So I think he's worth picking up just in case we see what he has.
Those rushing quarterbacks, I mean, we keep saying it over and over again because it is such a value. That's why Daniel Jones has become more wanted in fantasy. It's why Malik Willis, we're giving him a shot in some lineups today, because that rushing upside means you don't have to be quite as efficient or effective as a passer. Time now for Fantasy Insurance presented by Geico. We are looking at some sleepers for the week, the moves that can make or break your lineup. So for you, who you got?
Everyone always needs tight ends, right? So one that I like this week is Irv Smith Jr. And I know people out there might be like, oh, he hasn't done anything this year. That's what people were saying about Juwan Johnson last week when he went out and caught 2 touchdowns and went for over 20 fantasy points against his Cardinals defense. That's what this is about, the matchup. The Cardinals are in the top 2 in targets, catches, yards, touchdowns, and fantasy points allowed to the tight end position this year. It's just about hoping to take advantage of the matchup. And Irv Smith, we know he's got talent and we know he has a role in this offense, so it makes me feel even a little bit better about him.
Hashtag let Irv swerve. It can begin today, please. I'm looking at D'Onta Foreman and talking about the Carolina Panthers and their offense, which to start the year has been miserable. They've gone through a coaching change. They've gone through a quarterback change. They lose Christian McCaffrey, and they just keep getting better because football doesn't make sense. But no Chuba Hubbard this week, which means D'Onta Foreman should handle the bulk of the opportunities in that backfield for Carolina. We saw he was very effective last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Has an even better matchup on paper this week against the Atlanta Falcons. So I think there's an opportunity to really get D'Onta Foreman into some lineups. Look, I think you're starting him maybe over guys like Najee Harris potentially this week. There are a lot of guys that I think could probably be on your bench over D'Onta Foreman, which is a weird thing to say right now.
Yeah, I got asked on Twitter today, him or Jonathan Taylor, like.
Whew. I still think I'd go Jonathan Taylor.
I would too, but.
That also speaks to how Jonathan Taylor has been this season. Yikes. We got more to do here on NFL Fantasy Game Day, but Kirk Cousins getting loose as the Vikings get ready to host the Arizona Cardinals. The Vikings right now looking like the front runner to win the NFC North. I don't know if they've played great football, but it seems like everybody around them is sort of
better than Green Bay.
Better than Green Bay. The Bears might be hanging in there too as well. Dak Prescott, he and his Cowboy teammates at Jerry World hosting the Chicago Bears. Stick around. We've got a Sunday Night Football preview coming up right after this on NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. Zach Wilson, the Jets, dressed in all black today. They're going to the Patriots' funeral. Is that what it is?
Ooh, I like
Is that what this is? Is that what it is?
I
I know that's what Jets fans are hoping. This is a big win.
Never works out when teams say that, though.
That's true. Well, I said that, and I'm not a fan of the team, so it's fine there. We'll see what Zach Wilson and the Jets have in store. And Justin Jefferson, we know what's usually in store with him. It's usually a pretty big game, and you've got a great matchup against the Arizona Cardinals, so we can see if Jay Jettas can keep it rolling this fantasy season. Here is the poll we asked you guys on Twitter at NFL Fantasy. Who has been the spookiest surprise this fantasy season? Kyle Pitts in the lead, a slight lead over Russell Wilson. Najee Harris at third. Cam Akers coming in a distant fourth. That's probably because I think a lot of people were skeptical about Cam Akers to begin with. So you can keep voting, though. Just go to Twitter at NFL Fantasy, and you can vote for the next little while. We are still taking your fantasy questions that you're sending us via the interwebs, and we will take a look at a couple of those right now. This one from Jason, who wants to know half-point PPR, Aaron Jones, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Foreman, or Devin Singletary? Ooh.
I don't know why Singletary's in this group. Like, he's the easy out.
You can exclude him here.
As much as I like Foreman, I think he's the third one you cut out of there. For me, Jones and Boyd is very close. Am I crazy to say Tyler Boyd here?
No, I don't think you are at all. I was looking at Tyler Boyd as the guy just because the Bengals have been way explosive, and no Jamar Chase moves him up the pecking order. This one from Axe Ill Rose. Amon-Ra St. Brown or Chris Olave at wide receiver in a standard league. So no PPR here. So what do you think here?
I mean, both. Like, I would rather start both each and every week, but it being standard leans me towards Chris Olave because Amon-Ra's more the reception guy. Olave can just, get like an 80-yard touchdown.
He's hitting those air yards where Amon-Ra St. Brown's sort of more underneath a little bit. So I would double down on that and say Chris Olave is the guy you want. It is all over in London. The Broncos and the Jaguars just finishing up. Take a look at the highlights from this one. No score in the first quarter. Trevor Lawrence looking to throw, going to the end zone and finding Evan Ingram. The Evan Ingram revival season continues. He scores a touchdown. That puts the Jaguars up 7-0 in that one. Meanwhile, in the second quarter, still 7-0. Lawrence rolls out looking and picked off at the goal line. Justin Simmons. They had picked on Simmons a couple of times in that drive, and this time he's able to get one back. Still stays 7-0 there. 10-0 now, and this one, Jerry Jeudy getting around the edge and takes it into the end zone on the end around. So Jeudy getting the dance a little bit there in London. 10-7 the score. Now it is Melvin Gordon takes that one off the left side into the end zone. Melgo, I said it.
We got Marcus on board.
Melgo, a 1-yard touchdown run. That puts the Broncos ahead 14-10. Still 14-10, and this time it's Travis Etienne who plunges in from a yard out. A huge day for Etienne in the ball game. Broncos run defense been vulnerable a little bit lately. 17-14, and now Latavius Murray caps off a long drive with just under 2 minutes to go, puts it in, and that puts the Broncos on top. 21-17 the score. Last chance coming up for the Jaguars, and Lawrence is picked off trying to force one into Christian Kirk, but the Broncos take it away. They would hang on and win this game by a score of 21-7. Broncos improve to 3-5 on the season. Jaguars fall to 2-6. And still a rough day for Russell Wilson, but at least the Broncos pull out a win in this one.
Yeah, and I wasn't too big on either of their running backs, but they both scored a touchdown to save the day. And on the other side, man, Trevor Lawrence has been playing some bad football the last month, struggling with turnovers. The ground production has saved his day, but another rough one for Trevor Lawrence today.
Absolutely, but the one thing you take out of it, couple things. One, start your running backs against the Jaguars.
Yes.
Both Gordon and Murray had a good day. And Travis Etienne has become an absolute must-start each and every week. So there it is. Broncos, 21-17 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, still spooky start. Okay, spookiest starts. Who is your spooky start of the week? I was ready to move on to something completely different, but spookiest start of the week, who you got for week 8?
I'm going with David Montgomery here, who I know Adam Rank has hated that I've been doubting David Montgomery this week. But the reason is Khalil Herbert is taking away carries, and he's been the back getting the targets the last couple of weeks. Justin Fields is getting more design runs. He scored a touchdown in the red zone. So that takes away production from David Montgomery. If he didn't have the touchdown last week, we're looking at single-digit fantasy points, and that is the new floor, and the Cowboys have allowed the second fewest fantasy points to running backs and just two touchdowns all year to the position. So a lot working against David Montgomery this week.
I've been trying to look to get away from him in as many lineups as I can this week. It's been hard in on some of my rosters. CeeDee Lamb, same game, different side of the football. CeeDee Lamb is a guy who's getting all the metrics that we love. He's on the field, he's running routes, he's seeing targets. The problem is the matchup is just not a good one. The Bears have been clamping down on opposing passing games pretty much all season long. They have been, as we keep mentioning, they are vulnerable against the run. So I just have a feeling that this is going to be a run-heavy game script for the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, they will throw the football, but I think the passing volume is not going to be as high, which means it's going to be hard for Lamb to get the kind of target volume and maybe the receptions and yardage that we really want out of him. You're probably starting him, but this is not a great matchup to have CeeDee Lamb in your lineup.
I'm not worried about this squad. In fact, this might be the best thing for us this week. You know, nobody's going to give us a chance. Going to Buffalo and Sunday Night Football might be the best thing for us.
It's a week-to-week league. Anybody can beat anybody every given Sunday, so we've got to be prepared for everything.
Rolling, throwing, end zone. What a catch! What a play by Aaron Jones!
Allen looking long, throws to the end zone, and the ball is caught!
Sunday Night Football. It is the Packers visiting the Buffalo Bills. Our Stacey Dales is on the ground there in Buffalo, and she has the latest.
For these incoming Packers to Buffalo, they've lost 3 in a row and certainly need to get things back on track offensively. Mercedes Lewis, tight end, telling me they have to have their best effort against this #1 total defense in the Bills, which they haven't had their best effort yet this season. Allen Lazard, of course, out with that shoulder injury. He does lead the team in receiving yards. Look for Robert Tonyan to step up in an even bigger role. He leads the team with 30 catches this season, and Christian Watson, the rookie, questionable, limited all week with that hamstring. Chance he will be out here today. And of course, the running backs and A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, look for a heavy workload from those two. As for the Buffalo Bills, they are fresh off the bye with the 5-1 record, and it is really pick your poison. The #1 total offense, the #1 passing offense. They are #1 in third down in the NFL. Whether it's Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, the tight end Dawson Knox, or Singletary, the running back, Josh Allen leads the NFL with those 330 pass yards per game, and they have a beautiful night to work with here in Orchard Park. Temperatures expected in the low 50s.
Thank you, Stacey. That gets us to Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. We're projecting the quarterbacks in this one, Aaron Rodgers versus Josh Allen. And according to DraftKings Sportsbook, they've got Aaron Rodgers with 236.5 passing yards. Florio, where are you projecting him?
You know, I love the Packers. I got my green on, and I'm nervous. I'm thinking that Aaron Rodgers might have like the Aaron Rodgers coming out party, but for today, I'm going to project him at 247 passing yards. I have him for 2 touchdowns, and then, yeah, we're going way down here. I also have him throwing an interception, so I have him finishing just around just under that. 16. I have him for about 16 fantasy points, which is about where Aaron Rodgers has been sitting all year this year. He's yet to reach 17 in a game, but he's hit that 16-point mark pretty consistently all year. And I think this is a game where they'll try to establish the run early on, but if they fall behind against Josh Allen and that high-powered Bills defense, offense, then he'll have to throw more, which is why I think in the second half we'll see a lot of Aaron Rodgers.
By the way, it was purely coincidence that we both ended up wearing green for the show today. This was not planned, I promise you. Over to Josh Allen. Now, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, they have him projected for 276.5 passing yards with another 40.5 on the ground. So we don't have the rushing yards here, but I will tell you, I do think it's a big day for Josh Allen because they have all been big days for Josh Allen. So we'll keep scrolling a little bit as I filibuster. We'll get him to 325 passing yards. Come on, there one more. And I think 3 passing touchdowns. I think this is a big day. I'll throw in another 60 rushing yards for him. So we'll give him 31 fantasy points for the day because, look, man, it's Josh Allen. At this point, he really can do no wrong. You heard Stacey talk about the #1 passing offense. He's got a ton of weapons, whether it's Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis. We've seen guys like Isaiah McKenzie get going. They still haven't even really gotten Dawson Knox going. And, oh, yeah, just in case you forgot, he can run with the football effectively as well. Thought about projecting the rushing touchdown, decided not to do that. But He has been the QB1 the last 2 years, very much on track to be in that conversation again this year against the Packer defense. Has been just kind of so-so this year.
Yeah, they haven't been what we thought they would.
Yeah, so I think it's another big day for Josh Allen. Of course, DraftKings Sportsbook allows you to get in on the hottest action for your shot at cold, hard cash. Bet on your favorite sports all season long and gear up for football season. Right now, new customers can get a special offer when they sign up using promo code WhoScores. DeAndre Hopkins and his Arizona Cardinals teammates trying to stay hot against the Minnesota Vikings. The NFC West has been kind of a muddled division. Nobody has really taken hold. See if the Cardinals can hang in the race there. Michael Carter going to step into a big workload. No more Breece Hall, unfortunately. He is now the lead running back there for the Jets as they take on the New England Patriots. It's Sunday Fun Day. Coming up next. Cobra Kyler Murray getting ready to lead the Cardinals into Minnesota. I guess they're already in Minnesota. They're going to take on the Vikings, though, in just a little bit. That was going to be my Halloween costume. You guys can have that for free. Just get a headband and a gi and a Kyler Murray jersey. You can be Cobra Kyler Murray, just like I was going to be, but not now. That's a whole other story. Devonta Smith. He has been hot pretty much all season long. Remember week 1 when he didn't do much? People were like, oh, this is the A.J. Brown offense. And now it turns out that both these guys can eat in Philadelphia. They've got a big one against the Pittsburgh Steelers, trying to remain undefeated. It is time for 15 minutes to kick off, presented by Geico. Taking another look at the early game injuries. No Ezekiel Elliott this week, but yes to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Nelson Agholor back for the Patriots. Davante Adams, Mac Hollins are a go for the Raiders. Darren Waller is not. And Dalton Schultz getting the start for the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. It's time for Sunday Fun Day. Let's go through all the superlatives for the week. The top scorer for Week 8 will be...
Low-hanging fruit, right?
Yep.
It tastes just as good. Derrick Henry. Why not? Derrick Henry's been playing good ball. His last 3 games against the Texans, he's averaging almost 40 fantasy points per game with 7 touchdowns in them. And then the Texans have played 6 games this year. 4 of those times, they've allowed a top 2 fantasy running back. Everything is aligning for a monstrous Derrick Henry day.
I'm just waiting for all the people who are going to be tweeting about how they're running up on Derrick Henry and they don't love life this week. Mine's going to be Jalen Hurts because the Eagles have been lights out. I think there are only maybe 3 teams right now that you can look at in the NFL and say definitively that they are good. The Eagles are one of them. Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to throw the ball effectively against a Steelers defense that's been vulnerable. And on top of it, he gives you these sweet rushing yards, too. So I think everything's going to be coming up roses for Jalen Hurts this week against Pittsburgh. Since we're talking about quarterbacks, who's a must-start at the position this week?
Dimes, Daniel Jones. I know the fans are going crazy there, but the New York Giants are 6-1, and largely because Daniel Jones is playing good ball. He's not turning it over like he has in the past. Defenses are so keen in on Saquon Barkley that all he's going to do is fake, and then he can just run, and they're like, oh, we're still going to try to tackle Saquon. It's why he's putting up big numbers with his legs each and every week. I know the Seattle defense has been playing better, but they're still on paper a favorable matchup for the quarterback. I'm streaming Dimes in quite a few leagues this week.
I'm rolling with Dimes in a 2 QB league. I like it. I also think Tua Tagovailoa is a must-start quarterback this week. We have seen this Dolphins offense look very explosive. We know about the wide receivers, but now Raheem Mostert's getting involved in the passing game. I said I like Mike Gesicki as a streaming tight end this week. And yes, we are still picking on the Lions. We talk about the Seahawks defense improving. We don't talk about that with the Detroit Lions. I expect that the Dolphins are going to put up some points today, and Tua is going to be the trigger man for it there. Must start running backs for the week. Who you got?
Kenneth Walker. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've seen Rashad Penny go down, and since then, all Kenneth Walker has done is look like a league winner. In those games, he's averaging 23 touches, 139 scrimmage yards, and he's been a top 9 fantasy running back in each of the last 2 weeks. Plus, in that span, he leads the NFL with 11 red zone touches. He's getting so much opportunity. He is so explosive. He looks like a league winner right now, and one that should 100% be in your starting lineups.
Did I mention that I like Raheem Mostert as part of the Dolphins offense? Because, yeah, I like Raheem Mostert as part of the Dolphins offense. He is completely taken over there, has made Chase Edmonds persona non grata. He's getting the carries, starting to get the targets as well. Also, did I mention the Lions defense is bad? Because, yeah, the Lions defense is bad. I expect the Dolphins to march up and down the field against them all day. That gets us to the wide receivers. Who is your must start there?
Gabe Davis, who can have like a Randy Moss type game on just like 3 catches. That's why he always needs to be in your starting lineup. But right now, he leads the NFL in yards per catch. He is 3rd in air yards per target. And the Packers are in the top 8 on yards allowed on passes of 20-plus air yards. So they haven't been tested a whole lot, but when teams have thrown downfield against them, they've had success. I expect Jair Alexander to be on Stephon Diggs a good amount, which only probably leads a little bit more volume to Gabe Davis. If it wasn't for a couple of weird weather games after his ankle injury, we would be talking about Gabe Davis as a must-start receiver every single week.
So I've been talking about some Dolphins picking on the Lions defense in the interest of fairness and equal time. I'm going to pick a Lion to pick on the Dolphins defense. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. We know that he is back after suffering concussion symptoms and being in the protocol last week. He is still the top target for Jared Goff in this offense. And the Dolphins, whereas a couple years ago, they were kind of a fearsome defense that we were trying to stay away from. This year, you can pick on them. So I expect a lot of targets, a lot of catches, and another good day for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's keep the Lions theme going when we talk tight ends, huh?
I was going to say, can I borrow the Lions picking on the Miami Dolphins? Because that's what I'm doing at tight end. TJ Hawkinson sees enough weekly volume where he's always kind of like a fringy tight end 1, but this is just a really good matchup. The Miami Dolphins have allowed the 3rd most catches to tight ends this season. They're allowing about 15.5 fantasy points per game. All of that is enough, because he's a tight end, to get TJ Hawkinson in your lineup.
TJ Hawkinson should be in your lineup. So should Zach Ertz, who continues to be among the top targets there in Arizona. It doesn't really matter that DeAndre Hopkins is back. Ertz is still going to get some work. Look, the tight ends on both sides of this game are in play because neither defense is particularly good against the position. Ertz definitely going to get some more volume, so I think he should be in your lineup if you need a tight end. So that gets us to our bone-chilling prediction of the week. Oh, we are going to do defenses. Okay, we weren't going to do defense. Now we're going to do defenses. So we're just doing this thing on the fly. So who is your must-start defense for the week?
You'll like this one.
Okay.
They're playing right behind us. It's the San Francisco 49ers, who they're getting healthier. They're up there towards the lead. They have the 2nd most sacks in the NFL right now. And then no team has allowed anywhere close to the amount of production to opposing fantasy defenses like the Rams have. They have the most sacks, interceptions, all of that. Get the Niners defense in your lineup.
Niners defense has been great. great. I know they gave up a lot of points to the Chiefs last week, but that's the Chiefs. For me, it is the Philadelphia Eagles. The Steelers cannot move the football offensively. Kenny Pickett has been better than Mitch Trubisky, but still is willing to turn the ball over on occasion. The Eagles are able to get after you, get pressure up front. Their secondary is good. So I think the Eagles, as you mentioned, probably worth keeping in your lineup for the rest of the year, but certainly should be in your lineup for this week. All right, now that gets us to our bone-chilling prediction of Week 8 because Halloween, it's just tomorrow. So what's one that you love that's going to get people maybe a little hair-raising this week?
This was much more bone-chilling before Zeke was ruled out, but I think Tony Pollard, 200 all-purpose yards today. Tony Pollard is a baller himself. He is so explosive. I think he's the most talented running back on the Cowboys. Then you add in that the Bears' weakness is not only against the run, but the style of run that Tony Pollard loves. Huge day coming.
Well, I like Tony Pollard. I also like P.J. Walker. I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback this week. Again, pushing the ball downfield, getting DJ Moore involved, maybe dumping some off to D'Onta Foreman. He's not a big runner, but maybe he runs just enough to get something going here. In a week where there's not a lot of great quarterback matchups, there's a chance that P.J. Walker can get something going. Plus, if you like chaos, the Panthers winning means that they are in first place in the division.
That's what we need.
That's what we need. Okay, well, that'll pretty much do it for this edition of NFL Fantasy Game Day. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Hopefully, Week 8 is more of a treat and not a trick for you. We'll be back, of course, next week with more as we get you ready for kickoff. But in the meantime, teams taking the field. Getting ready to wrap this one up for Michael F. Florio. I am Marcus Grant. Enjoy Week 8, everybody. We'll talk to you next Sunday.
It's good. You already know what time it is. Time for some football, baby!
Walker the snap, fires downfield. Tommy Tremble's open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Panthers!
He's pretty good, too.
Yeah, catch. Last year was number 4 pick, and Mariota is going to go deep.
Fields takes off. Left side, he's in. Touchdown, Bears. A 3-yard touchdown run by Justin Fields, his second running touchdown. What a drive.
Prescott under center, Pollard motion right. Handoff Elliott, burrowing on the left side. Touchdown. 2 for Zeke. Touchdown, Elliott.
Pickett in the middle, he's intercepted, trying to force it in, and the safety Javon Holland took it away, and he's got it around midfield. Big play by the captain of the Dolphins defense.
Their first red zone snap of the day, and it's a big one all the way to the end zone.
Dalton straight drop back, throws over the middle, and a one-handed interception by Isaiah Simmons in midfield. Runs it back to the left of the 40, at the 30, at the 25, at the 20, back to back. Interception returns for touchdown by the Cardinals at the end of the half.
Handoff Dalvin, Miami native with some room left side.
There he goes!
To the right, he gets to the 30, Dalvin 20, and he's loose! Touchdown! Welcome home, Dalvin Cook.
Delayed hand up to Jacobs. Huge hole at the middle, 10. Cuts race on 5. Touchdown, Jacobs. The hat trick in the end zone. His 3rd rushing touchdown of the day.
Play action for Dalton, looking to throw, does throw deep. Shaheen will make the catch. He will score the touchdown.
Zappy drops back. He throws a low ball left. Wide open Jacoby Myers, who makes a twisting, diving catch. He squirts into the end zone. Touchdown, Patriots.
Zach Wilson back to throw. Looks over the middle. Double clutches. Hits Carter. Runs left to the 45-50. Michael Carter's got a first down and more. Cuts it back at the 40. Oh, that is a huge play on the catch and run by Michael Carter.
Pickett in the gun on 2nd and 7. Gets the shotgun snap. Fly for Pickens. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. Pickett to Pickens from 7 yards out. And he beat Iggy on the play.
On first down. It goes into the end zone. Touchdown, Devontae Smith. Hurts faked inside. Straight up through it. Devontae Smith for a touchdown.
Quick pass is intercepted. Picked off by Andrew Adams. And he's going to go the distance. Pick 6 for Adams. And the Titans lead 9-0. Mills looking, throwing, touchdown to Philip Dorsett. Davis Mills, patient, floating, waiting, and then on the money to Dorsett.
Snap to Heineke on 3rd and 9. Lobs one towards McLaurin, who comes back for it and makes a catch at the Packers' 43-yard line. Amazing catch by McLaurin. First down, Washington.
Talk about clutch.
But Malik Willis, the backup quarterback, is out there in motion, and he could not handle it, and they turn it over. Wow! Big turnover by Tennessee.
3rd and 10. Garoppolo going end zone. Caught for the touchdown. Kittle.
Another jet sweep. A handoff Skoranek. He's got speed. He's got the edge. He goes in untouched. Ben Skoranek. Touchdown.
Jones back to throw. Fires one deep down the right side. He's got a receiver leaping. Trying made for it. And it's caught for the touchdown. Jones threw it up high. And it's caught for the touchdown by the New York Football Giants. And it's Darius Slayton.
1st and 10, toss to Walker, goes right side, has a little running room. Parkinson out front. Here comes up the sideline. He's on the run, 40, down to the 30. Are they going to catch him? I don't think so. 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Seahawks, 74 yards.
Tyson Campbell comes up with the turnover. Broncos rushing 5. Lawrence left, end zone, touchdown! Evan Ingram hauls it in, and the Jaguars strike first in London.
Talked about the fact that Evan Ingram, you're going to see him right here at the tip of this bunch, just going to run a 7 route to the corner of the end zone, was a guy who was a matchup problem. If you don't get anything on him at the line of scrimmage and let him get to the 2nd and 3rd level and expect
1st and goal. We all hug our aunt like that, you know. Here's Lawrence rolling to his right now. Throws it, batted up, and intercepted. Intercepted. Justin Simmons on the turnover. After a couple of penalties go against Simmons, he makes up for it with a turnover.
Well, I don't always like those stats, but that right there is an example. Sure. You throw the ball in my area, I'm probably going to get my hands on it.
Travis Etienne making people miss. Still going down the sideline. Etienne has one man to beat. And Justin Simmons will force him out.
One of the biggest character guys on this roster in a good way. What a great tackle by him.
Riley Patterson on for the field goal attempt from 37.
Riley
and he's got that.
37-yard field goal. Yeah. Just going to run a little corner out. You're right there by alignment.
Pitch it to Judy. Trying to get there, and he does. Jerry Judy. Wilson to Jerry Judy. And the Broncos are on the board.
Watch Hamler and then watch Melvin Gordon. Beautiful job. KJ Hamler, you got to go get the safety. Melvin Gordon, you got to go get that corner. Big body formation, play action pass.
2nd and goal against single high cover. Got the fullback in there. Handed to Gordon. Squeezes through. To the end zone. Touchdown Broncos. And Denver takes their first lead of the day. 2nd and goal. Etienne has 155 yards rushing. Needs another yard. To the goal line. End zone touchdown. Travis Etienne puts the Jaguars back on top.
It's a great job. Just Travis Etienne having vision. Watch his vision here. In that moment right there, bang, you got to cut it back. Put your right foot in the ground. Chubb is held off because the zone read. Yeah, it looks like his knees stay up and he crosses that goal line.
But this is a key drive right here. This is going to tell us a lot.
Here's Russell Wilson to throw. Deep shot, right sideline. Got a man. It's caught. It's KJ Hamler. The speed burner for the Broncos, working on Trey Herndon for 49.
These are the kind of things that are causing them trouble.
First and goal. Sure, they keep it on the ground. Latavius Murray into the end zone. Touchdown. And the Broncos back up on top.
With a false start.